A huge aloha, mahalo. Welcome back, Taj.
Hey, big mahalo.
Good to hear you. Good to see you. And you were among, our last guests that we had who was actually coming here to play in Hawaii. It was right before the pandemic, literally the week before. It was early March 2020 when you played the Blue Note Hawaii. That had to be one of your last shows before the thing.
It was the last show.
Was it really?
Yep, the absolute last show before before the before the pandemic. Before they was on lockdown. I was on lockdown. Well, we've been getting out of it, but I was there for a long time.
And where did you go after that show in Hawaii?
Back to California, and then that's where I stayed, and that's where I am right now.
So you have not left since this whole thing started. You've been right there.
I've had 2 outings and several different gigs and different Zoom things, but no touring or anything like that.
No touring, but when you say outings, you did some actual concerts?
Yeah, and live stream.
On the internet kind of deal?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but no audience stuff yet?
No. That's coming up.
I know. I've been looking on the website and I saw you got dates coming and stuff, which is exciting because it's about time. And so take us back. So the when you think back to the arc of when you were last year and then now we're catching up, how has this thing impacted your life professionally and personally, if you're to think about it?
Well, the thing about it was that it was a welcome respite from traveling. I've been on the road for 60 years. And it was really good for me to kind of, have some downtime that, I had to come to grips with that, things may change and times may get tougher, and hey, we didn't get put here to handle more than we can handle. So it was really good for me. I was able to really, do a lot of personal things, get a lot of business done that when you're traveling all the time, you have to have other people do it or work with other people remotely. So the onus was on me. It was right on my own shoulders. So I enjoyed that, but most of all, I really took time for myself, really to think about things, connect with my family deeper, lose quite a bit of weight, which was good. Just get healthier. And
you managed to avoid the virus, I am assuming, because you're looking good, you're sounding good.
Oh yeah. Well, I never had any trouble with any of the other viruses. Once in a while, I could feel something sneaking up, and then I would take the necessary precautions. Do the right thing, pump up the C, stop taking in heavy food, move to liquid, lots of water, on vitamin C, and some Chinese herbs sometime,
And you're based in San Francisco?
No, I'm in Berkeley.
Okay, right.
East Bay.
East Bay, okay, Bay Area though, at least.
Yeah.
And one of the things that in terms of we've been doing a series Off the Road, which you're part of. We've been talking to artists since it began. Jack Johnson, actually, a guy you know well and have played with, he was our first guest, and we've been talking to everybody along the way, from Alice Cooper to Al Di Meola, John McLaughlin, and Moody Blues, so many different bands. And a lot of things that's interesting is people like yourself and some of the folks I named, you have so many musical connections, and you've both influenced people, you've been influenced by people, you've collaborated with folks, you're a musical fan. And so there have been certain musical luminaries that we lost to the virus, and I was just curious because of your deep connection to folks. I'm thinking of like Toots Hibbert from Toots and the Maytals, the great Manu Dibango, who did Soul Macosta and so many other jams, Ellis Marsalis, father of those incredible children, John Prine. When I name some of those guys, or in your own personal life, people that could have just as much significance that people don't necessarily know of, were there certain ways that you were touched or by any of the losses I just mentioned?
Well, all of them. I mean, they're fellow humans and fellow musicians, that I respect and love. And, it's like you got to figure it out. Is that maybe taking leave of this place is good for them? They don't have to put up with it, you know, or the other way around. We're just sad because there's somebody you really love that's no longer amongst us in the human flesh form. But everybody's got to make that walk on their own. You knew this ship was sailing to Shanghai when you got on it. So I mean, it's like it's what you do. What are you going to do when you're here with it? I mean, this is a gift. The music, the life, the whole world, the whole thing is a gift. It's like, what are you going to do with it? So for me, all these people, hey, I'm going to do nothing but celebrate them and celebrate their life and speak well of them as long as I can do that.
You've played with Toots before?
Yeah.
What's a memory of working with him or coming across him in your long life?
I mean, he's a great musician who really had tremendous through maybe a kind of a Southern Baptist Pentecostal kind of music, which found its way down to Jamaica. He was able to, plug into that vibe, that soul vibe that came out of the South, and make a distinct Caribbean version of it.
And it's neat how, because something you and I have talked about through all the years is everything connecting back to Africa. So it's also it's a one of the branches off of that tree.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Well, the Caribbean certainly is.
And you got to play with him over time. Ever play with him in Jamaica?
No, I never played with him directly in Jamaica on the same shows as him and many others. Steel Pulse, Big Youth. What's his name? Peter Tosh.
Right. Third World.
No, I never played with them.
Never did a Third World. Okay.
But yeah, no. But I heard, I never played with them, but I heard them. I love their music.
And how about Manu Dibango? Now you talk about
Yeah, I got to know him.
Talk about him a little bit. Give him a little bit of visibility because a lot of people don't know as much about him.
Well, that's really too bad for them because there's no excuse for no one who's claiming there isn't any good music out there. That there's an internet, and I mean, I could stop playing music now and just go out there and run around on the internet and find all these incredible musicians that I know of and know about their lives. But Manu, he kind of brought that whole Makossa sound out to the world, and he was a wonderful man. I got to meet him several different times over in Europe. He was connected pretty much he played a lot in Paris, but not only there, he played all over Europe and all over Africa and around the world. And I run into him every now and then and we'd have a chance to talk. But fantastic man, great energy.
Neat because you actually have, as we've talked about before, been a cultural ambassador who actually went to Africa. You kind of did the reverse, going there, being this, kind of role model / ambassador role that you've had.
Well, yeah, I mean, it could have been stretched out to be seen as that. But yeah, we went in 1979 and took a whole group over there and spent 3 months and did 12 countries.
Yeah.
This was quite nice. It was under the Carter administration.
Yep.
And, there were a lot of things that were going to happen the next year. And, so we got over there before those things happened and were able to make some connections with people. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, We went as musical ambassadors. It had a bigger picture, and we didn't find out until we got back. What they really wanted to know because they couldn't. There were other entities. The Russians were there. I mean, the Chinese were there, and the Cubans were there, and the Canadians, the 3 Cs. And then, maybe Lebanese and Syrians and East Indians. But, the U.S. didn't really have a big presence. So Carter, tried to communicate through what he felt was the type of, thing that would connect with the people there. And he was right. We went there and we had a lot of people come and visit and see us. It was really great. and it, it had a big long residue too. Still, people really like it.
Well, it's cool. It's what you just said, that connection that people have. And when I think about that, the way that, like, for example, when I think about this virus and how it's brought a lot of people together, the Musicians Health Alliance benefit songs from quarantine, you stayed active by contributing Sitting on Top of the World to that, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
When was that recording done? Talk a little bit. Give a little exposure to what you did there.
No, I mean, Sitting on Top of the World. Which one? Which version of that?
From that Songs from Quarantine?
Oh, yeah, that was a one. Yeah, we worked on that maybe earlier 2020.
Okay, so not that long back.
That was it.
Not that long back, and then is that a solo version of it?
Yeah, there's a solo version and there's an ensemble version. I don't know which one they used.
That's cool. And so you did that as a contribution to kind of help out.
Yeah.
That's solid, brother. There's another you're a critical figure yourself in Americana. And there's been this huge, not only has the virus impacted us since you and I last connected, but the killing of George Floyd, so many other African Americans, it's had such a tremendous impact on our culture, the kind of dialogue that's happening now. And are there ways you've been moved by what's taken place since you and I last talked?
Well, that's a really good question. I'm always aware of what, I mean, the George Floyd thing, Black Lives Matter, human lives matter, everybody matters. We need a wake up call. 90% of us need to wake up, come up out of our sleep. And that's what those things is. I'm just glad finally, maybe, I don't know whether people are going to stay awake, but I think that more people are more aware now about what really goes on. I think the biggest thing I hope happens is that not only do, Anglo-Americans read about Black Americans and Black Americans read about Anglo-Americans, but people read and dig and check out history and culture. Most people in the United States, if you ask them questions about the United States, they don't really know anything about this place, except the typical kinds of things. It's just like when you talk about Hawaii to people, they have an idea that there's an island out there and they run around in grass skirts and coconut bras and play ukuleles. I mean, it's just the way that this thing has been set up, this construct it's always taking something, and instead of having the ability to look at the whole picture, it's always squeezing it down to some kind of little saying, or euphemism. And life isn't lived like that. That's why so many people are depressed and feel suppressed and anguished, because they don't really understand it's connecting to the whole. And when we're dealing with these kinds of problems that we've seen pop up amongst people, it's on a level of education. And I don't mean going to some school. I mean basically I learned to read, write, count, and I've educated myself. I'm not going to college for the stuff that I know, with the exception of studying agriculture at one point in time. And I only did that because I thought, well, maybe checking it out at a university might be interesting, because I'm always one for going to the sources and learn from the source's mouth. People like say the horse's mouth. I say the source's mouth. And it's important. But all this different stuff with people need to wake up. You know what? It's like study it. Dr. Leakey said, we're all, as far as we know at this particular point, I'm saying what science says. I'm not saying what I said. But as far as we know at this point, everybody came out of Africa and over millions of years developed into the people that we are now. Okay? You can trace anybody's DNA at some point. It's going to point back there. Okay? So that's what the science says already. That's science. the way the earth is, that crocodiles and elephants do not beget crocofants. Okay. Okay. But a Chinese man and an African woman is going to make a baby. Okay.
Great
and
point.
The baby's going to have highlights from both parents. Okay. Whatever. And people need to get over this kind of stupidity. You know, I mean, there's a higher level, there's a higher vibration, and I think that part of the reason that we have the kinds of things that we have is that we've gone through the first 250 years of this country, the next 150 years of this country, the Industrial Revolution. All of these things have been coming one thing after another, boom, 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 boom. People have not had a chance to stop and say, okay, what do I really think? And who am I? And who are these other people over here? And how do I deal with them? It's like, you can't come from humanity, and, you know, it's an impossible situation. And they push humanity to the side. Humility, you know, compassion, you know, just plain old love for the human family. You know, and these people have been, remember, you know, over the last, say, 150 years with the Industrial Revolution, people have had jobs. They've been every day, bang, clank, bang, clank, bang, clank, 8 hours. You know, and then they go home. And they're just, you know, and then it's the weekend that they work. Well, those guys haven't had a time to really sit and read and learn and educate themselves. So what do? Click, they turn on the tube, and whatever the tube's telling them, they believe. You know, they don't have, you know. So you have a lot of people that are, you know, uneducated, and we have a lot of systems here that have been in place for a long time, and they need more than a facelift or, you know, some new upkeep. And this isn't a program to talk about all that, but yeah, you know, I saw a lot of stuff, and I'm you know, I'm not going to say, oh, I'm embarrassed for my country. These guys showed up just like they've always showed up. This is nothing new. And for people to say, oh my God, I didn't know it was that bad. You're asleep in your life. You need to wake up, you know, and understand that it's on each individual to create the beauty around them and not on the other guy.
That's some really heavy stuff, and you use two great words: humility and compassion. And it's almost like if those could be the model, the benchmarks that you strive to have, rather than like strength or bravado or something like that. If it would be humility,
strength and bravado is okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's a place for it. It just can't be the only card that you deal for everything that comes your way.
Right on.
You know.
That's a good way of putting it. It's a combination. Yeah. You need to not exclude the others too, is what we're saying.
Exactly, man. It's like, you know, it's like it's what's right, not who's right. You know, and you know, when people just need to be encouraged to be a better self. You know, not forced, not coerced, encouraged. You know, it's like everybody worries about all these people coming across the border. I'm saying, well, why don't we just go down there and help them stay home?
Right.
You know, give them some reason to stay home. Well, gee whiz, well, maybe it's because of all these things that are broken down there, or, you know, they need some help here. They could use this, they could use that. They'd be glad to stay home. Who wants to be in a city, you know, that's choked with smog when you can live somewhere where you got toucans and you know, macaws and
right.
spoonbill irises and, you know, and everything else. You know,
when you said that, and both the references to the beautiful birds, and also when you said the humility and compassion, what was it that made you move here to begin with and make your life? You know, you were a one-time resident of Kauai. Talk about what it was that drew you to being here.
I grew tired. I grew tired of what was happening here in urban America. My family was here on the West Coast with me, and I had young impressionable kids, and I was watching a lot of people lose their children to the streets. And I had my grandparents and my parents, my great grandparents, did not work that hard and live through what they lived through, and to create, you know, me and my life, for me to turn around and set it up so that my kids were in some kind of situation where they were in danger from drugs and violence, and it was rampant and it was everywhere. So, I mean, over the years of, I have a background in agriculture. Over the years, I had come to Hawaii and I kept trying to find out where was that sound that I'd heard back in the early 50s, and I couldn't find it, but then eventually, you know, people when I used to come there, people would always say to me, you should come to the outer islands. You'd really enjoy it. Molokai, Lanai, Maui, go Big Island, go to Kauai, and so, eventually I went there and it was such a wonderful vibe that we decided to move there, and it was real good. It's good. It had its issues, and I had some issues with it, still do. But, the beauty, the music, the sea, the food, the people.
The birds.
Yeah, the birds.
Some very pretty birds, and that's a part of your life that's really special, that you have that connection to us in that way. And there's another side of your career, as I was talking with Valerie, who set this thing up, that a lot of people may not appreciate, or people who are hardcore fans of you probably certainly appreciate. But for a lot of people who generally know and like your music, there's a side of you that worked in film and on TV, and I was looking at some of those, and it gave me a big smile, and I was watching a little bit of the video, and so I was hoping to go through a couple of these just to see if you had some both either fun or enlightening memories. The first was it in 1972 when you were in the movie Sounder? You're credited with both the music, and you played Ike Phillips in the story concerning an African-American family in the Deep South during the Great Depression. Was that your first acting role, Taj?
No, but it's probably the first one that really we got. There's some, you have things that happen that end up on the cutting room floor, so you can't really talk about them.
Right.
But yeah, I would say that the first commercial one that really had any legs under it that now is like an iconic film. Yeah.
What are stories that, when I mention it, because I'm assuming that most people don't bring that up on an everyday basis to you, when I mentioned it, what's a fun or in a story that makes you feel good, that you enjoy reflecting on? You look like amazing in that thing, looking at you, and it's like, it just kind of gave me chills to think, wow, we're going to be talking in a few days. What's a great story from filming that touches you to this day, or makes you smile?
Well, the whole thing. The whole reason I got involved with it was from the script. What it was. Here I had an opportunity to see if I could pull off something that had never been done before. First of all, I was going to try to score a whole movie as a solo artist. Other than Lightning Hopkins, I'm the only other artist that makes music on the soundtrack for that. That's a major motion picture.
Yep.
Green lighted through the top. Okay. And then I had the opportunity to score that music using banjo, harmonica, guitar, hand claps, shouts, fight, and really bring people physically and emotionally into those characters. It wouldn't be to me. I've oftentimes gone to the movies as a youngster, and they come to a scene, and it's obviously a rural scene, and here's the Viennese Symphony Orchestra playing in the background. It's like
incongruent.
Okay, you see a hula halau come out, and you hear some heavy metal music. It just doesn't work. So what I was hoping that they wouldn't give me any problem in terms of how I wanted to interpret the music. I was going to have full run. I didn't know whether I would or not, but they gave me full reign to do the soundtrack as I saw it. And I felt that, the simplicity, because I mean, I was interviewed by this and about this. They said it really blew people's mind. Well, wow, the simplicity of it. It wasn't, a whole bunch of stuff on top of one another, which it could have been, but that wasn't what that was about. That was about the people and that story. And today you go back and look at the movie again, it resonates just as deep because it brings the characters. The music does. Oftentimes, what makes the scene move is that there's too much going on in it and you need something to focus on, And so then they put the music in. This way, the music was in, you could focus on, that made it focus on you as an individual and these people as individuals. So you can have some connection to these characters and their story, and it never fails to hit me the same way because I had the opportunity to really have a moviola, which was, all the canisters of film, right. and then I could sit and, had a foot pedal with it and put the different films in, lay a guitar across my lap, have a banjo over here, have this over there, and harmonica, and just look at the film and say, this is what I'd like to put in that scene, and, just look at it and be able to be, the other thing was really good about it was that to be considered by the music and the movie industry, a composer, right. A legitimate composer, that, the work is going to be tied to that film for as long as they can play it, So that was really good. It was exciting. Then there's the people in East Feliciana Parish where we shot that movie. It was amazing people. Right. Really exciting.
And great stars who were part of that thing too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really. It was an excellent, great experience. And I garnered quite a few friends out of that whole time.
It's when
time friends.
I love the creative. That's a great side to it, is the getting to score a film and sit there with the movie and decide what should go here, and maybe I'd like a banjo here, or maybe I can dig what you're saying is that excitement of being able to have a creative process like that.
Yeah, and then then it was, it was a leap because I didn't know how they would hear this, and that was the first thing that they said. This is the first time only ever, full country blues, music score ever.
And the trip is that not a whole lot longer. And you think of like how you said you got this respect for being a quote unquote composer. And when I think just a handful of years later, it's 1977, Scott Joplin, about the king of ragtime with Billy D. Williams and Art Carney. You played poor Alfred in that. What sticks out about doing that, about a legend, another, incredible composer there? And are there any stories that you remember that are equally meaningful for you?
Oh, yeah. A lot of great stories from that. First of all, it was great working with, let's see, what was that guy's name? The youngster, the young guy they play with. Okay. See him. I say Clifton Davis.
Yeah, right.
He was really good. Dwayne Jesse, who was when we had the piano cutting contest, we went back and forth. But the things are, aside from the cast, the two people that really stuck out. Billy D was fantastic. But the two people that stuck out for me, one was the 1994-year-old U.B. Blake, who was in the movie, a great piano player and composer from the past. We had, we're about a composer, but one of the great composers who made one of the first Broadway musicals, black musicals, Shuffle Along and the Chocolate Dandies and all those kind of things that happened in New York. He was involved in it. And Art Carney, who played Ed Norton in the Honeymooners. He played the
John
patron.
Stark.
Yeah, Stark. Yeah, and stories with them. I mean, they used to have a room that had like about 40 pianos in it. Some of them didn't have any they were set so that you looked like you were playing, but you couldn't hear anything.
Ah.
And they ran a track. But the other ones were really good piano. Most of them were uprights. And so I would come in early to the set in the morning before everybody got there and wander around checking out the pianos. And so this is a two-part. So one day I'm in there and I'm totally in tune to what I'm doing, playing a blues tune on the piano, key of G, and I lean this way to go down the keyboard with my left hand, and I see a figure, and I look up, and it's UB Blake watching my hands, and he sees me, and he points out, he says, "James P. Johnson, just like James P. Johnson. You're playing like James P. Johnson. Did you ever hear James P. Johnson?" I said, "Well, I never saw him play." He said, "Well, you playing just like him." I was like, wow. I mean, here I'm just playing the music out of my head on the instrument. Didn't take, the lessons that I took, they, on piano were like,
minimal.
So rudimentary. And I was already here to be, boogie woogie, so they didn't waste their money on me, but anyway, he was there and he's the one that turns the glass over and says, "You get out of here."
Right.
in the movie. And then the next time I came in one day to come, normally come in, I was the only one that used to come in and play the pianos. So I walk in and I hear this cool jazz being played on the piano, nice chords and everything, So I wander around till I get closer to the piano and I peek around the piano. It's Art Carney.
Wow.
Sitting at the piano, playing the coolest, hippest jazz. We kind of nodded to one another, and I stood there, checked him out, and said, "Yeah, he was really good." I was surprised. His playing is kind of like maybe Steve Allen or somebody like that,
Wow.
up in that kind of George Shearing. It was obvious that he had listened to some players.
Right.
I had no idea that. He was really good. And that was one, him playing music. And then the other thing that was really good about him is that he was just telling me, he gave me a couple of pointers acting wise, because I was like trying to keep everything in my head and then deliver it. He said, no, come in, know the dialogue of the person that you're going to be communicating with and where they are in the scheme of the whole movie, so, I got a good idea from that, and we did several scenes together, and it was really good. I learned a lot from him, but that was pretty much the big stuff up there. And wonderful to be able to know, more about Scott Joplin.
Sure.
Who I liked his music, and always wondered why and how his music, W.C. Handy's, and several other, great, Black American composers have survived to be a part of the American music lexicon.
Well, both of those are great. I mean, and they tie into the current kind of what we were talking about earlier with the journey of African Americans through the hundreds of years. And these are two movies that you got to be part of, which were very much tapping into that, showcasing, like you said, Scott Joplin, an incredible composer. And what's interesting about the depth of the kinds of things that you've done is you've touched into other territory too, which is just so different than that. A big departure. It comes a few years later, but I've just been curious about it. 1991, you played the role of the Gatekeeper in the Keanu Reeves film that also starred George Carlin, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Yeah, that was funny. They just called me up and said, "Hey, we got a role we think you'd be great in." And I said, "Well, what's that?" They said, "Well, we want you to play, basically St. Peter, and come down and see, we got this clothing down here, and this is what we like for you to wear." Got down there, I like what they got. We put it on, gave me my lines, I did my stuff. I really didn't have a lot to do, but I think in retrospect, a lot of people really, connected on that. I hear about it.
Two cool cats to get to be co-starring in a way along with. Any stories with either of those guys?
Play some one-on-one with Keanu. Yeah, that's about it.
One-on-one, what, basketball?
Yeah, that was it. We played. Had a nice game, pickup game.
That's cool. And was George
Talked to him a little bit, you know.
anything with George
No, George wasn't on the set
when you were there? Right. Yeah, that's how movies often are.
He had done his part and gone. You know, I talked to Keanu because I wondered what had he been to Hawaii and did he know he had family over there. He really did. But it's really interesting because after that, he did. He went and hooked up with his dad and got involved with his family over there.
In Hawaii, you're saying?
Because he didn't know anything about it.
And you got to appear in another one with a huge name, and it's cool because it connects to Hawaii in a lot of ways too. The 1998 Harrison Ford film 6 Days, 7 Nights. You're playing live with your hula blues band. Any fun interactions of that great one?
No, it was just great to be a part of that whole thing. Our thing was really pretty tight. You know, we didn't have any other than on screen as you know when the action was up front and we were the band playing in the back. You know, hey, it was all good. It was real good. We got the music in there, and you know, people still come up to me and say, "Wow, I was watching this movie the other night. I couldn't believe it. There you were in a Harrison Ford movie."
That's what I mean.
It's like it, somehow or another it doesn't occur to them that that's possible to happen, but there they are.
Yeah, and he's such an icon, you know, with the whole with the Star Wars.
Yeah, but
thing.
I used to know him when he was a handyman around Hollywood. He'd be working up at I forgot what the name of his hotel is up on Sunset. He'd be up there, you know, and that's what he did. You saw him with hammers and screwdrivers,
right?
Skilled saws. He was a good man, you know, good man. He was a real guy. That's the vibe it comes off in the movie.
That's a funny story because we had earlier a couple months back on the series we had John Densmore of The Doors, and he also told a story about they were filming something like The Doors at Hollywood Bowl or something, and Harrison Ford was on the set crew, using like hammer and like working on the set of the movie.
That's right. No, he's a real guy. I mean, there's a lot of those people I knew before. You know, before whatever it is set in, that everybody else knows them through the Matrix.
Right, and exactly before they became famous for something else.
Something else, you know. But what kind of people and how much of that do they still retain? You know.
Right. Well, there's a lot of cats, and before we wrap it up, another one of your, and there's a lot of other people can scroll through the amazing TV appearances. You also did the new WKRP in Cincinnati. Along the way. But one that you're probably, for music fans at least, more known for. And you've maintained a connection to these guys throughout your life, which is also fascinating. The Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus, a bizarre kind of film that had so many music luminaries. Take us back, share any memories that come to mind of doing that.
Well, it wouldn't have happened without the British being what they were, and the whole British Isles being as enamored as they were of American music. I mean, going back as far as it could go, you know. And these guys really are in there. You know, I doubt that you could find, you know, more than a handful of Americans that know the serial number for "I Got My Mojo Working" by Muddy Waters. But these guys know the serial numbers on everything. And they've been digging into the music and loving the music from the position of looking at it as great art, you know, and as opposed to how much did it sell? It's great art. Anyway, with that going on, there was an amazing movement of American music from every big band, you know, traditional, you know, ragtime, you name it. It made its way back and forth across the Atlantic. And, you know, the young people came along and they wanted something. You know, you got to remember that Jagger and all those guys, Keith Richards, Brian Jones, Bill Wyman, Charlie Watts, Ian Stewart. You know, I'm talking about the guys that are the original band.
Yeah, yes, you are.
You know, they are those guys really, they really put on a great show. They really love the music, and we could feel this. And then through John Hammond, Canned Heat, Ry Cooder, and Jesse Fuller, I think those are the four. Those people told me how much they couldn't believe how much blues was being played early in the morning, during the day, on television, on the radio. You know, great record stores to go in, records they don't see over here, music that they only heard maybe a little piece of scratchy something over there. They heard a really good copy of it. I mean, these guys are really deep in it, in a level that I have never seen here. Never, even amongst the guys that claim that they're in it. So with those being said, I was playing with my band at the time with Jesse Davis, and we were at the Whiskey A Go-Go. And, I was playing some song, and I closed my eyes and playing. And I looked down on the dance floor when I opened my eyes, and Mick Jagger's dancing there, Keith Richards is dancing, Brian Jones is dancing. Over here, the Animals are, Eric Burden's dancing, Hilton Valentine's dancing.
Wow.
Chaz Chandler's dancing. I think Eric Clapton was sitting at the back of the room, along with this Japanese group called the Tigers. And then there was another, who else? Well, Graham Bond was back there. Wow. Organ player, kind of interesting guy. And, the other Stones were in the room. And I just said, you know what? Those guys are in town. They're doing this thing up here. Here we are playing in a little club, the Whiskey A Go-Go, not shabby.
No.
And they're here to have a great evening. And I'm just going to make sure that after this set, that I go over and I communicate to them that, hey, I want to tell you guys, I really appreciate what you guys are doing musically. You can't get that to happen over here. But, I understand you got a lot of stuff happening over there. If there's any possibility that we could ever be a part of anything that you're doing, please do not hesitate to check us out. So, of course, they got our, here's our business manager's card. 4 months later, 3 months, or however long it was, 8 first-class round-trip tickets came in the mail. Said, hey, guys, you and the band, 2 of your road guys and a couple of the manager guys, let's go. And we were on a plane over to England, and those guys treated us the best ever. I mean, I don't care what anybody says it. Well, what was one of the great things that happened? You talk about a great story. There's only 2 or 3 people in this business, maybe a handful that I can say that really said, hey, guy, come on over here, pull you up. Here, come on. We want you over here. Because we were the only American group in that, noticed. There were no other American groups.
Good point.
And the energy on that's a real energy. It was directly between me and Mix, with those guys at the table, them telling us how brilliant it was. They enjoyed the band. They really were having a great time, and then they just opened up their arms and brought us in, and we had a wonderful time as a result of it. It's a great story also, too. We were kind of like, well, you're supposed to have an exchange with an English musicians coming to the United States and American musicians going over here. We went and we didn't, there was no exchange. So they were kind of a little nervous that maybe they might have a little visit from from some authorities or something. So they were kind of, but other than that, we didn't, other than some faulty camera equipment, which still led to this great film.
Right.
After all. No, yeah, it was all good, man. Those guys are good, and we've been longtime friends. I really care about what they did because they never backed down from what it is that they love. They really love the old blues. Right. And to me, I love a lot of the stuff that they do, but my favorite album by theirs is 12 by 5. Hands down. The best, one of the best albums that they've done, although they've been done great songs all along.
That's great how they embraced you, and
Oh yeah,
it's
still do.
Oh, I know. That's what I was going to say to people. And take a look at just not that long ago. There you are, still going on stage with them, still playing shows with the.
Oh yeah, a couple, 3 times. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. You know, if I'm anywhere and they know I'm somewhere around, you know, we get together on the phone, whatever. They've always been good. They're always at. You know, I have nothing, no complaints.
I'll tell you somebody else who's always been good for a decade. You've been my guest here on the show and always sharing your good vibe, always being so kind. And I love the stories, brother. All the history, the fun, the camaraderie. And I can't be there to give you a hug or a high five to personally show you how much I appreciate it. But
hey, brother, just throw shaka.
Right here, brother. And I'm just sending you the good vibe and saying God bless. And I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed getting to reconnect because it means the world to me to get you on again.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you back, brother. And
all right, mahalo and aloha.
Stay safe, brother Taj.
Yeah, same to you, bro. Aloha. This is Taj Mahal. It was one big thrill to be back in the Hawaiian Public Radio. I'm happy to be part of the Off the Road series. Speaking with my brother, Dave Lawrence. Hey, it's non-profit, folks, so give him something. Here's how, and a big mahalo.
I'm giving you a big mahalo. Feel it, brother. Thank you. I can't thank you enough. You're solid. I can't wait till you get back out here, okay?
All right, bro. Well, I'll be coming.
I'll be waiting.
All right.
Stay safe. Thank you, brother.